You know what's weird about the most famous art galleries in the world? They're underground, in complete darkness, and no one's been allowed to visit them for decades. I'm talking about the caves of Lascaux, Chauvet, and Altamira, places where our ancestors left behind some of the most stunning artwork humanity has ever created. But here's what really gets me. When Picasso saw the cave paintings at Lascaux, he reportedly said, "We have learned nothing in 12,000 years." Think about that for a moment. One of the greatest artists of the modern era looked at paintings made by people who lived during the Ice Age, people who had never seen a metal tool, never lived in a permanent house, never even seen a wheel, and felt humbled by their skill. So what made these ancient humans pick up chunks of ochre and charcoal and start painting on cave walls? How did they develop techniques so sophisticated that they wouldn't be seen again until the Renaissance? And why did they venture deep into dangerous pitch-black caves to create art that most people would never see? By the end of this journey, you'll understand how our ancestors made the leap from survival to self-expression, how they invented the very concept of art, and why their cave paintings represent one of the most important cognitive revolutions in human history. This story takes us from the earliest glimmers of human creativity to the moment when our species became truly modern, not just in body, but in mind. You know what's weird about the most famous art galleries in the world? They're underground, in complete darkness, and no one's been allowed to visit them for decades. I'm talking about the caves of Lascaux, Chauvet, and Altamira, places where our ancestors left behind some of the most stunning artwork humanity has ever created. But here's what really gets me. When Picasso saw the cave paintings at Lascaux, he reportedly said, "We have learned nothing in 12,000 years." Think about that for a moment. One of the greatest artists of the modern era looked at paintings made by people who lived during the Ice Age, people who had never seen a metal tool, never lived in a permanent house, never even seen a wheel, and felt humbled by their skill. Think about that for a moment. One of the greatest artists of the modern era looked at paintings made by people who lived during the Ice Age, people who had never seen a metal tool, never lived in a permanent house, never even seen a wheel, and felt humbled by their skill. So what made these ancient humans pick up chunks of ochre and charcoal and start painting on cave walls? How did they develop techniques so sophisticated that they wouldn't be seen again until the Renaissance? And why did they venture deep into dangerous, pitch-black caves to create art that most people would never see? By the end of this journey, you'll understand how our ancestors made the leap from survival to self-expression, how they invented the very concept of art, and why their cave paintings represent one of the most important cognitive revolutions in human history. This story takes us from the earliest glimmers of human creativity to the moment when our species became truly modern, not just in body, but in mind. Chapter 1. Discovery. Let's start with a dog and some teenagers in Nazi-occupied France. On September 12, 1940, 18-year-old Marcel Revedad was walking with his friends and his dog, Robot, when the animal suddenly disappeared. Robot had fallen into a hole left by an uprooted tree on the hills above the village of Montignac. The boys widened the opening, and Marcel was the first to slide down into what they hoped might be a secret tunnel to the nearby Lascaux manor. Instead, Marcel Revedad became the first person in over 17,000 years to see the magnificent painted bulls, horses, and deer that covered the cave walls. The teenagers had stumbled onto what would become known as the Sistine Chapel of Prehistory, a cave network containing nearly 600 paintings and 1,500 engravings that would revolutionize our understanding of early human intelligence and creativity. But Lascaux wasn't the first prehistoric cave art to be discovered. That honor belongs to a site in Spain that almost destroyed the career of the man who found it. In 1879, amateur archaeologist Marcelino Sanz de Salciuolo was exploring the cave of Altamira with his 8-year-old daughter, Maria. While her father examined the cave floor for stone tools, Maria looked up at the ceiling and exclaimed, "Myra, papa, toros!" Look, Papa Bulls. What she had discovered was a spectacular polychrome ceiling covered with paintings of bison, horses, and deer. The artwork was so sophisticated, so vividly rendered, that when Sacciuola published his findings in 1880, the archaeological establishment accused him of fraud. The paintings were too good, they argued, to have been made by primitive cave dwellers. For over 20 years, Sacciuola endured ridicule and accusations of forgery. He died in 1888, just 14 years before the scientific community finally accepted that his discovery was authentic. The problem was, and with Sacciuola's research, it was with 19th century assumptions about the intelligence and capabilities of prehistoric humans. This pattern would repeat itself. When cave art was first discovered, it challenged everything scientists thought they knew about human evolution and the development of intelligence. Each new discovery pushed back the timeline of human creativity and forced researchers to reconsider what our ancestors were capable of. The most shocking discovery came in 1994, when 3 French cave explorers, Jean-Marie Chauvet, Aliette Brunel Deschamps, and Christian Hiller, were investigating a small opening in the Ardèche Valley. They had noticed air flowing from between fallen rocks, a telltale sign of hidden chambers below. After removing enough stones to squeeze through, they found themselves in a vast underground gallery. What they discovered inside would rewrite the history of human art. The Chauvet Cave contained over 400 paintings and engravings, featuring lions, rhinoceroses, bears, and mammoths rendered with breathtaking skill. The artwork showed sophisticated use of perspective, shading, and even animation techniques, horses painted with 8 legs to show movement, creating what researchers called prehistoric cinema. But the real shock came when the paintings were dated. Using radiocarbon analysis of charcoal pigments, scientists determined that the oldest artwork in Chauvet Cave was created around 36,000 years ago more, and twice as old as the paintings at Lascaux. Suddenly, the timeline of human artistic achievement had been pushed back by millennia. The Chauvet artists weren't primitive beginners fumbling toward artistic expression. They were master artists working at the very dawn of human creativity, producing work that was as sophisticated as anything created thousands of years later. Chapter 2. Ancient Masters. The cave painters weren't hobbyists dabbling with pigments in their spare time. They were skilled specialists who had mastered complex techniques that wouldn't be fully understood or replicated until modern times. At Lascaux, researchers have identified at least 6 different painting techniques. The artists used their fingers to apply pigment directly to the cave walls, creating flowing lines and filled areas. They fashioned brushes from animal hair, moss, and plant fibers for detailed work. They created primitive stencils by blowing pigment around objects, hands, leaves, even their own bodies. One of the most remarkable techniques involved a sophisticated understanding of how firelight interacts with artwork. The cave painters knew that their paintings would be viewed by flickering torches and oil lamps. They deliberately used the natural contours of the cave walls to create 3-dimensional effects, and they positioned their artwork to take advantage of dancing shadows. When you hold a torch up to the paintings in Chauvet Cave, something magical happens. The animals seem to move and breathe. A bison drawn with multiple legs appears to run across the wall as the light shifts. Horses painted along undulating rock surfaces seem to gallop through the shadows. This wasn't accidental. The artists had discovered what researchers now call prehistoric animation, the use of flickering light and cave topography to create the illusion of movement. They were working with technologies and techniques that wouldn't be seen again until the invention of cinema. The skill level required for this work was extraordinary. Many of the animal paintings show accurate anatomical details that could only come from careful observation. The artists understood animal behavior, musculature, and movement patterns. They could capture the weight and bulk of a charging rhinoceros or the delicate grace of a running horse. Consider the technical challenges these artists faced. They were working in total darkness, deep underground, often in spaces so cramped that only one person could fit. They had to carry their pigments, tools, and light sources through narrow passages and up steep climbs. Some paintings are located on cave ceilings, requiring the artists to work overhead while holding torches. Yet despite these obstacles, they produced artwork that shows consistent style, sophisticated composition, and technical mastery. The famous Hall of Bulls at Lascaux features a carefully planned arrangement of animal figures that creates visual movement and narrative flow. The largest bull is over 17 feet long, the biggest animal painting ever discovered in cave art. The artists also understood color theory and pigment chemistry in ways that suggest deep knowledge accumulated over generations. They knew that different iron oxides would produce different shades of red, that heating yellow ochre would turn it red, and that mixing pigments with cave water rich in calcium carbonate would help preserve their paintings for millennia. This level of expertise doesn't develop overnight. It requires sustained cultural transmission of knowledge, specialized training, and communities that valued artistic skill highly enough to support dedicated artists. We were not looking at occasional doodling by bored hunters. We were seeing evidence of the world's first art schools. Chapter 3. Sacred Pigments. To understand how cave artists created their masterpieces, we need to talk about a substance that was more precious than gold to prehistoric peoples: ochre. Ochre is iron oxide, essentially rust. But to our ancestors, it was magical. This reddish earth pigment was so important that humans traveled hundreds of miles to find the best sources. Archaeological evidence shows that people were mining ochre at least 164,000 years ago, making it one of humanity's oldest industrial activities. The cave painters didn't just use any ochre they could find. They were connoisseurs who understood the subtle differences between various types. At Lascaux, researchers identified multiple grades of red ochre, each carefully selected for specific properties. Some produced bright, vibrant reds perfect for making animals appear alive and dynamic. Others created deep, dark reds that seemed to glow in firelight. The process of turning raw ochre into paint required sophisticated knowledge. First, the iron-rich rocks had to be ground into fine powder using stone mortar and pestles. Archaeologists have found grinding tools at cave sites across Europe, often stained with red residue from thousands of years of use. But grinding was just the beginning. The ochre powder had to be mixed with binder substances that would help the pigment stick to cave walls and last for thousands of years. The cave artists experimented with different binding agents: animal fat, plant saps, egg whites, even urine and saliva. At Lascaux, researchers discovered that the artists had found the perfect binder: cave water rich in calcium carbonate. This natural limestone solution created a chemical reaction with the ochre that essentially turned the paintings into permanent mineral deposits on the cave walls. It was prehistoric chemistry at its finest. For black pigments, the artists had two main options: charcoal and manganese dioxide. Charcoal was easy to produce and gave rich, deep blacks perfect for outlining and shading. But manganese dioxide was more challenging to work with and required special knowledge to process. The fact that cave artists used both suggests they understood the specific properties of each material and chose them deliberately for different artistic effects. Yellow ochre was another crucial pigment, often heated to create various shades of red and orange. The artists had learned that they could control the exact color by carefully managing the heating process, a technique that required understanding of both chemistry and fire management. White pigments came from several sources: ground limestone, chalk, or kaolin clay. These were often mixed with other pigments to create lighter tones or used pure to highlight specific details. At some sites, artists even used burnt bone and shells to create brilliant whites. The cave painters developed an entire palette from these natural materials. They mixed colors to create secondary hues, experimented with different concentrations to achieve various opacities, and learned to layer pigments to create complex color effects. Archaeological evidence shows that prehistoric peoples carried their pigment-making knowledge across vast distances. Similar ochre processing techniques have been found from Spain to Russia, suggesting that this knowledge was shared and transmitted across different groups and generations. The investment in pigment production was enormous. Recent studies suggest that cave artists at Lascaux may have traveled up to 25 miles to obtain the best ochre sources. This wasn't casual gathering. It was organized expeditions specifically designed to acquire art materials. Teams of people were involved in the pigment supply chain. Some specialized in locating and mining ochre deposits. Others focused on processing and grinding. Still others mixed the final paints and developed new color combinations. We're looking at evidence of the world's first art supply industry. Chapter 4. Underground Workshops. The caves weren't just canvases. They were workshops, sanctuaries, and gathering places where human culture was transmitted from one generation to the next. When archaeologists study cave art sites, they find evidence of extensive preparation and organization. At Lascaux, researchers discovered scaffolding holes in the cave walls, showing that the artists constructed elaborate platforms to reach high painting surfaces. They found piles of colored pigments carefully stored in natural alcoves, and primitive palettes made from flat stones where colors were mixed. The layout of many decorated caves suggests careful planning. At Chauvet, the paintings aren't randomly distributed. They're organized into specific galleries with different themes and styles. The horse panel features overlapping equine figures that create visual depth and movement. The Gallery of Lions showcases predatory animals in dynamic poses. Each area seems designed for different purposes and probably different types of ceremonies. The logistics of cave painting were staggering. Artists had to transport hundreds of pounds of materials deep underground. They needed ochre, charcoal, grinding stones, mixing bowls, water, animal fat for lamp fuel, and enough food and supplies to sustain work sessions that might last days or weeks. Lighting alone was a major challenge. The artists used hollowed-out stones as oil lamps, burning animal fat to provide illumination. Archaeologists have found over 140 of these lamps at Lascaux, along with charcoal deposits from torches that show how the artists moved through the cave systems. Recent studies of torch marks on cave walls reveal that some painting sessions involve dozens of people working simultaneously. Different groups would be responsible for different tasks, some preparing surfaces, others mixing pigments, still others applying paint. The coordination required suggests sophisticated social organization and planning. The cave artists also developed specialized tools. They created brushes from animal hair bound with plant fibers, used hollow bones as primitive airbrushes for spray painting techniques, and fashioned scrapers for preparing wall surfaces. Each tool was designed for specific artistic effects. At Altamira, researchers found evidence that artists prepared the cave walls before painting. They scraped away loose rock and dirt, creating smooth surfaces that would hold pigment better. They also used the natural texture of the cave walls as part of their artistic design, painting over bumps and protrusions to create three-dimensional effects. The famous polychrome bison at Altamira takes advantage of natural rock bulges to give the animal sculptural volume. The artists didn't fight against the cave's topography. They incorporated it into their artistic vision. Some caves show evidence of artistic apprenticeship systems. At several sites, researchers have found paintings that appear to be practice work, simpler figures painted in areas away from the main galleries. These may represent training exercises where novice artists learn techniques before being allowed to work on major compositions. The handprints found in many caves might also be part of initiation rituals. At Garges Cave in France, over 200 hand stencils cover the walls, many appearing to show missing fingers. These may not represent actual injuries, but deliberate folding of fingers to create specific symbolic patterns. Chapter 5. Spiritual Depths Deep in the Caves. Far from sunlight and the everyday world, something profound was happening. The cave artists weren't just creating pictures, they were developing humanity's first complex symbolic system and, quite possibly, the foundations of religion and spiritual thought. The location of cave art provides crucial clues about its purpose. Most decorated caves weren't living spaces. People didn't live in these deep, dark chambers. Instead, they made special journeys into the underground world, often traveling for miles through dangerous passages to reach the painting galleries. At Chauvet Cave, some of the most spectacular artwork is located over 1,200 feet from the entrance, through narrow passages and across difficult terrain. Getting there required planning, equipment, and considerable risk. People weren't casually wandering into these spaces, they were making pilgrimages. The caves chosen for decoration often had special acoustic properties. When researchers tested the sound characteristics of painted caves, they found that many of the decorated chambers have exceptional echo and resonance. Sounds made in these spaces would reverberate and amplify, creating otherworldly acoustic effects. This suggests that the caves were used for ceremonies involving chanting, singing, or musical instruments. The combination of dramatic artwork, flickering firelight, and powerful acoustics would create profoundly moving experiences for participants. The animals depicted in cave art weren't random choices. They represent a carefully selected bestiary with deep symbolic meaning. In the earliest period, represented by Chauvet Cave, artists focused on powerful predators: cave lions, bears, rhinoceroses, and mammoths. These weren't animals that people hunted regularly. They were dangerous creatures that dominated the Ice Age landscape. Later cave art, like that at Lascaux and Altamira, shows a shift toward animals that were more central to human survival: horses, bison, deer, and aurochs. But even these aren't simple hunting records. The animals are often depicted in contexts that suggest ritual significance rather than practical documentation. Some of the most mysterious cave art features hybrid creatures beings that are part human, part animal. The famous sorcerer figure at Trois Frères Cave in France shows a humanoid form with animal features: antlers, a horse's tail, and clawed hands. Similar therianthrope figures appear in caves across Europe and suggest sophisticated spiritual beliefs about transformation and shapeshifting. Hand stencils, found in caves around the world, may represent humanity's first signatures. Not just "I was here," but I exist as an individual with consciousness and identity. The process of creating a hand stencil involved pressing your hand against the cave wall and blowing pigment around it, literally leaving part of yourself permanently embedded in the sacred space. The positioning of artwork within caves suggests ritual movement and ceremony. At Lascaux, visitors would have followed a specific path through the decorated chambers, encountering different scenes in sequence. This journey through the cave may have been a form of initiation, where participants learned cultural knowledge and spiritual beliefs through direct experience with the artwork. Some researchers believe the caves served as prehistoric temples where shamans conducted healing rituals, coming-of-age ceremonies, and communications with spirit worlds. The combination of sensory deprivation, darkness and silence, artistic stimulation, and altered states of consciousness induced by ritual activities could produce profound spiritual experiences. Recent neuroscientific research has shown that extended time in cave environments can alter brain activity and induce hallucinations. The phosphenes, visual patterns, that people see when their eyes are deprived of light often include geometric shapes and patterns similar to those found in cave art. This suggests that some cave paintings might represent visionary experiences induced by the cave environment itself. Chapter 6. Dangerous Journeys. Creating cave art wasn't just artistically challenging. it was genuinely dangerous. The artists regularly risked their lives to create their masterpieces, and understanding these risks helps us appreciate how important this work was to their communities. Cave systems are inherently hazardous environments. Many of the painted caves require navigating through narrow passages, climbing steep rock faces, and crossing underground rivers. At Chauvet Cave, artists had to traverse areas where a single misstep could result in fatal falls. The Lascaux cave system includes a 16-foot vertical shaft that had to be descended with ropes. Artists working in the lower chambers risk getting trapped if their ropes failed or if rockfalls blocked their exit routes. Emergency supplies found in some caves suggest that artists sometimes got stranded underground for extended periods. Carbon monoxide poisoning was another constant threat. Burning torches and oil lamps in confined spaces quickly depleted oxygen levels and produced dangerous gases. Researchers have found evidence that some painted chambers became so toxic that artists had to work in short sessions, retreating frequently to breathe fresh air. The artists developed sophisticated safety protocols to manage these risks. They established supply caches at strategic points throughout cave systems, ensuring they could resupply their light sources during long painting sessions. They created emergency shelters in wider chambers where they could rest safely. At several sites, archaeologists have found evidence of rescue operations. Rope systems and climbing aids show that communities developed specialized techniques for retrieving artists who became trapped or injured underground. This level of organization suggests that cave painting was a community enterprise with dedicated support teams. The darkness itself presented unique challenges. Working by flickering torchlight, artists had to develop techniques for maintaining consistent color and proportions across large compositions. They created reference systems using natural cave features as guides, and they developed methods for stepping back to evaluate their work despite limited visibility. Winter weather added another layer of danger. Many caves are located in mountainous regions where sudden storms could trap artists underground for days or weeks. Evidence of food storage and sleeping areas in some caves suggests that artists prepared for extended stays during severe weather. Despite these risks, people continued creating cave art for thousands of years across multiple generations. This persistence suggests that cave painting was an optional cultural activity. It was essential to community identity and spiritual practice. The dedication required was extraordinary. At Pigments Cave in France, artists working on the famous spotted horse panel had to lie on their backs in a narrow tunnel, painting the ceiling while holding torches above their heads. The physical strain and claustrophobia would have been overwhelming, yet they produced some of the most beautiful cave art ever discovered. Some paintings show evidence of multiple visits over years or decades. Artists would return repeatedly to add details, modify compositions, or create new images adjacent to existing ones. This suggests that cave decoration wasn't a one-time event but an ongoing spiritual practice that required continued commitment despite the associated dangers. Chapter 7. Hidden Meanings. The cave paintings aren't just beautiful. They're coded messages from our ancestors, filled with symbolic meanings that we're only beginning to decode after decades of research. One of the most intriguing discoveries came from studying the abstract signs that accompany animal paintings. Researcher Genevieve von Petzinger has cataloged over 32 different geometric symbols that appear consistently across European cave art. Dots, lines, circles, triangles, and more complex forms like tectiforms and penniforms. These symbols appear to follow grammatical rules, suggesting they might represent humanity's first writing system. The symbols aren't randomly distributed, they appear in specific combinations and patterns that hint at structured meaning. Some researchers believe they represent a proto-language that encoded information about seasonal cycles, hunting patterns, or spiritual beliefs. Recent analysis has revealed even more sophisticated messaging systems. Archaeologist Bennett Bacon discovered that sequences of dots and lines in cave paintings correlate with animal mating cycles according to a lunar calendar. This would make them the earliest known evidence of astronomical record-keeping and symbolic time measurement. The arrangement of animals within caves also appears to carry coded information. At many sites, different species are positioned in specific relationships to each other, suggesting narrative sequences or symbolic associations. The pairing of horses and bison at several caves might represent complementary concepts like male and female, summer and winter, or sky and earth. Some of the most mysterious aspects of cave art involve what's not shown. Despite the incredible artistic skill displayed in animal paintings, human figures are rare and usually depicted in simplified, schematic ways. When humans do appear, they're often shown as hybrid creatures or in ritualistic contexts. This pattern suggests that the caves weren't meant to document everyday life, but to represent a spiritual or mythological reality where animal spirits held primary importance. The few human figures might represent shamans, spiritual guides, or people in transformed states of consciousness. The famous scene in the shaft at Lascaux shows a simplified human figure lying near a bison that appears to be wounded by a spear. This might represent a hunting accident, a mythological story, or a shamanistic journey between worlds. The ambiguity seems intentionally designed to convey multiple layers of meaning simultaneously. Color choices also carry symbolic weight. Red ochre, associated with blood and life force, predominates in many caves. Black, linked to death and the underworld, often outlines and defines forms. The careful application of these colors suggests that their symbolic associations were as important as their visual effects. The caves themselves might function as symbolic maps of spiritual geography. The journey from entrance to deep chambers could represent passage from the everyday world to the realm of spirits and ancestors. Different chambers might correspond to different aspects of spiritual experience or different categories of mythological beings. Some researchers believe the caves encode astronomical information. The positioning of certain animal groups might correspond to constellation patterns, and the timing of cave visits might have been coordinated with seasonal celestial events. This would make the caves prehistoric planetariums where communities gathered to observe and record cosmic cycles. The persistence of symbolic systems across thousands of years and vast distances suggests sophisticated cultural transmission mechanisms. Knowledge about symbolic meanings was being preserved and passed down through generations, creating continuous traditions that lasted far longer than any individual human lifetime. Chapter 8. Artistic Innovation. The cave artists weren't just following ancient traditions, they were innovators who invented artistic techniques that wouldn't be rediscovered for thousands of years. One of their most remarkable innovations was the use of perspective to create depth and three-dimensional space on flat cave walls. At Chauvet Cave, artists overlapped animal figures to show which ones were closer to the viewer, created foreshortening effects to suggest animals moving toward or away from the observer, and used size relationships to indicate spatial depth. The famous panel of horses at Chauvet demonstrates sophisticated understanding of overlapping forms and atmospheric perspective. 4 horses of similar size appear to recede into the distance through careful arrangement, while additional figures at different scales create complex spatial relationships. This mastery of perspective disappeared after the Ice Age and wasn't seen again until Renaissance artists like Leonardo da Vinci redeveloped these techniques thousands of years later. The cave artists had achieved one of art history's most challenging technical breakthroughs, then lost it when their cultures changed. Animation was another groundbreaking innovation. Cave artists discovered that they could suggest movement by painting multiple limbs on animals or by positioning figures to take advantage of flickering light. The bison with 8 legs at Chauvet creates a strobe light effect when viewed by torchlight, making the animal appear to run across the cave wall. Shading and modeling techniques show that cave artists understood how light reveals three-dimensional form. They used graduated tones to make animals appear rounded and solid, and they positioned highlights and shadows to enhance the sculptural quality of their paintings. The technique, called stump drawing, involved blending pigments with fingers or tools to create smooth gradations of tone. This sophisticated approach to modeling form requires understanding of how light behaves and how the human eye perceives volume and depth. Cave artists also pioneered spray painting techniques. They would chew pigment and water into a paste, then blow it through hollow bones or directly from their mouths to create even color fields and gradual transitions. This technique was used for backgrounds, to create atmospheric effects and to fill large areas quickly. The stenciling technique used for handprints represents another technical innovation. By placing objects against the cave wall and spraying pigment around them, artists could create negative images that appeared to glow against darker backgrounds. This technique was later used for other subjects, creating silhouettes of tools, weapons, and decorative objects. Color mixing reached remarkable sophistication. Cave artists learned to create intermediate hues by blending different pigments, developed techniques for varying opacity and transparency, and discovered how different binding agents affected color intensity and longevity. Some of the most advanced techniques involved working with the natural texture and contours of cave walls. Artists would deliberately choose surfaces with bumps, cracks, and protrusions that could be incorporated into their compositions. A natural bulge might become an animal's shoulder. A crack could suggest a spear wound. This integration of natural cave features with artistic design required exceptional spatial visualization skills. Artists had to imagine how their paintings would look when completed while working in near darkness, with limited ability to step back and evaluate their progress. The scale of some cave art projects required collaborative techniques that wouldn't be seen again until much later periods. The Great Ceiling at Altamira, with its herd of polychrome bison, required multiple artists working in coordination to achieve visual unity across a large, complex surface. Chapter 9. Global Awakening. While European cave art was flourishing, similar artistic revolutions were occurring around the world, suggesting that the development of symbolic thinking was a global phenomenon among early modern humans. In Indonesia, recent discoveries have pushed back the timeline of cave art even further. The caves of Sulawesi contain hand stencils and animal paintings that are at least 45,500 years old, making them among the oldest known figurative art anywhere in the world. These include detailed paintings of warty pigs and other local animals, created with techniques remarkably similar to those used in European caves. The Sulawesi discoveries are particularly significant because they show that sophisticated cave art was being created simultaneously on opposite sides of the world. This suggests that the cognitive abilities necessary for symbolic art had developed before modern humans spread out of Africa, rather than emerging later in Europe as was previously thought. Australian rock art traditions extend back at least 65,000 years, making them potentially the oldest continuous artistic tradition in the world. The Kimberley region contains thousands of painted rock shelters with artwork spanning tens of thousands of years, showing the evolution of artistic styles and cultural traditions across enormous time periods. Aboriginal Australian art includes sophisticated techniques like X-ray painting, where artists depicted both the external appearance and internal anatomy of animals. This approach required detailed knowledge of anatomy and the development of symbolic conventions for representing internal structures. African rock art sites contain some of the world's most diverse and long-lasting artistic traditions. The caves of South Africa include paintings and engravings that span from the earliest evidence of symbolic behavior to recent historical periods, providing an unbroken record of human artistic development. The Apollo 11 cave in Namibia contains some of Africa's oldest known rock art, including painted stone slabs that are over 25,000 years old. These portable art pieces show that African artists were experimenting with different surfaces and developing techniques for creating movable artwork. North American cave and rock art traditions developed independently, but show similar themes and techniques to those found elsewhere in the world. The Cumberland Plateau region contains some of North America's oldest cave paintings, created approximately 7,000 years ago by indigenous peoples who continued these traditions into recent historical periods. Chumash cave paintings in California demonstrate sophisticated understanding of astronomical cycles and seasonal patterns. These paintings served as calendars and ceremonial guides, showing how cave art functioned as practical information storage as well as spiritual expression. The global distribution of similar cave art techniques suggests that symbolic thinking and artistic expression are fundamental human capabilities that emerged independently in different populations. Hand stencils, animal paintings, and geometric symbols appear in cave art traditions worldwide, indicating deep cognitive similarities among all modern human populations. This worldwide artistic awakening coincides with other evidence of modern human behavior: the development of complex tools, the creation of jewelry and personal ornaments, the establishment of trade networks, and the evolution of sophisticated languages. Cave art represents just one aspect of a broader cognitive revolution that transformed our species. The persistence of these artistic traditions across vast time periods and geographical distances demonstrates the importance of symbolic expression to human communities. Whether in Europe, Asia, Australia, Africa, or the Americas, people consistently chose to invest time, energy, and resources in creating art that serves spiritual and cultural functions beyond immediate survival needs. Chapter 10. Cultural evolution. Cave art represents more than individual artistic achievement. It marks the beginning of cumulative cultural evolution, where knowledge and techniques were preserved, transmitted, and improved across generations. Archaeological evidence shows that cave art traditions lasted for thousands of years, with multiple generations of artists returning to the same sites to add new paintings, modify existing ones, and maintain cultural continuity. At Chavet Cave, radiocarbon dating reveals two distinct periods of artistic activity separated by 5,000 years. Yet the later artists clearly built upon and respected the earlier work. This continuity required sophisticated social mechanisms for cultural transmission. Young artists had to learn not just technical skills, but also the symbolic meanings, ritual protocols, and sacred geography associated with cave art traditions. Knowledge was being preserved and passed down through organized apprenticeship systems. The evolution of artistic styles within cave art traditions shows how cultural knowledge accumulated over time. Early periods focus on outline drawings and simple color application. Later periods develop more sophisticated techniques like shading, perspective, and complex color mixing. This progression demonstrates continuous improvement and innovation. Within established traditions, regional variations in cave art styles suggest that different communities developed distinctive cultural identities while sharing basic artistic approaches. The Franco-Cantabrian tradition of southwestern Europe shows consistent themes and techniques across hundreds of sites, indicating extensive cultural communication and shared symbolic systems. The development of portable art, alongside cave painting, shows how artistic traditions expanded beyond sacred cave spaces into everyday life. Venus figurines, decorated tools, and carved ornaments brought artistic expression into domestic contexts and allowed for wider distribution of cultural symbols. Trade networks developed to support cave art traditions. High-quality ochre was transported hundreds of miles from specialized mining sites to cave art locations. Shell beads used for personal decoration were traded across vast distances. These networks facilitated not just material exchange, but also cultural communication and artistic influence. The social organization required for cave art projects indicates increasingly complex community structures. Large-scale cave decorations required specialists in pigment preparation, lighting management, scaffolding construction, and artistic execution. This specialization allowed for higher levels of technical achievement while fostering cultural roles beyond basic survival activities. Evidence from multiple cave sites suggests that artistic knowledge was standardized across regions through formal training systems. Similar techniques, symbolic conventions, and quality standards appear at sites separated by hundreds of miles, indicating organized methods for maintaining cultural consistency. The integration of cave art with astronomical observations shows how artistic traditions became repositories for practical knowledge. Cave paintings served as calendars, seasonal guides, and astronomical reference systems, demonstrating how cultural traditions could preserve and transmit technical information across generations. Music and cave art appear to have developed together, with many decorated caves showing acoustic properties that would enhance singing, chanting, and musical performance. The combination of visual and auditory arts created immersive cultural experiences that strengthened community bonds and cultural memory. The persistence of cave art traditions through major climate changes and population migrations demonstrates remarkable cultural resilience. Artistic traditions adapted to new environments and circumstances while maintaining core symbolic and technical elements, showing how cultural evolution provides stability during periods of environmental uncertainty. The preservation and evolution of cave art traditions across millennia required sophisticated mechanisms for transferring knowledge from one generation to the next. These transmission systems represent humanity's first formal educational institutions and established patterns that continue to influence learning today. Master-apprentice relationships form the backbone of cultural transmission in cave art communities. These weren't casual teaching arrangements, but formalized mentorships that could last decades. Master artists took responsibility not just for technical training, but for transmitting cultural values, spiritual knowledge, and community responsibilities associated with artistic practice. Structured learning sequences organized the acquisition of artistic knowledge into logical progressions that built skills systematically. Apprentices began with basic tasks like pigment preparation and tool maintenance before advancing to simple drawing exercises, then progressing to more complex techniques like shading, perspective, and large-scale composition. Demonstration protocols established systematic methods for showing techniques to novice artists. Master artists developed standardized approaches to demonstrating brushwork, color mixing, and surface preparation that ensured consistent quality and skill transmission. These demonstrations were often repeated multiple times to ensure proper learning. Practice hierarchies created graduated systems of artistic responsibility that allowed apprentices to develop skills through increasingly challenging assignments. Beginning artists might work on preparatory tasks or simple decorative elements before being allowed to contribute to major artistic compositions. Error correction systems enabled master artists to guide apprentice development through constructive feedback and technique refinement. Evidence suggests that some cave paintings were modified or painted over when they didn't meet community standards, indicating systematic quality control in artistic training. Cultural storytelling preserved the contextual knowledge that gave meaning to artistic techniques and symbolic conventions. Master artists maintained extensive oral traditions that explained the significance of different artistic motifs. the proper protocols for cave art creation, and the spiritual meanings associated with different cave locations. Community validation processes ensured that artistic knowledge was accurately transmitted and properly understood. Multiple master artists might evaluate apprentice work, and community elders would assess whether novice artists had acquired sufficient knowledge to participate in major cave art projects. Cave art traditions demonstrate how cultural systems can maintain continuity while fostering innovation and adaptation. This balance between preservation and change became a fundamental characteristic of human cultural evolution. Technique refinement occurred as successive generations of artists improved upon established methods. Early cave paintings show relatively simple pigment application. Later works demonstrate increasingly sophisticated techniques for shading, perspective, and color mixing that built upon but exceeded earlier achievements. Stylistic evolution shows how artistic traditions adapted to changing cultural needs and aesthetic preferences while maintaining core symbolic and technical elements. Different artistic periods emphasize different animal species, compositional approaches, and symbolic themes while preserving fundamental artistic knowledge. Innovation pathways allowed individual artists to contribute new ideas and techniques to established traditions. Evidence suggests that particularly talented or innovative artists could introduce new methods that would be adopted by their communities and transmitted to future generations. Adaptation mechanisms enabled cave art traditions to respond to environmental changes, population movements, and cultural contacts with other groups. Artistic traditions showed remarkable flexibility in adapting to new cave environments, different pigment sources, and changing animal populations. Quality standards maintained excellence while allowing for innovation. Communities established criteria for artistic achievement that ensured high standards while providing opportunities for individual creativity and technical improvement. Experimental traditions encouraged artistic exploration within established cultural frameworks. Some caves show evidence of experimental work where artists tested new techniques, color combinations, and compositional approaches without compromising major artistic projects. Integration processes incorporated successful innovations into mainstream artistic traditions. New techniques developed by individual artists would be evaluated, refined, and integrated into community knowledge if they proved effective and culturally appropriate. Cave art traditions developed within complex networks of cultural exchange that connected communities across vast geographical areas. These networks facilitated the spread of artistic knowledge while allowing for regional variations and local adaptations. Communication systems enabled artistic knowledge to spread between communities separated by hundreds of miles. Similar artistic techniques, symbolic motifs, and quality standards appear at cave sites across southwestern Europe, indicating extensive cultural communication and knowledge sharing. Exchange relationships facilitated trade in artistic materials and cultural knowledge. Communities with access to high-quality ochre sources traded pigments for other materials and cultural knowledge, creating economic relationships that supported artistic development. Cultural ambassadors, possibly including master artists and spiritual leaders, traveled between communities to share artistic knowledge and maintain cultural connections. Evidence of stylistic influences and technique sharing suggests systematic cultural exchange activities. Territorial coordination allowed different communities to develop complementary artistic traditions while maintaining overall cultural unity. Different cave sites show specialized focuses on particular animal species or artistic techniques while sharing fundamental symbolic and technical Knowledge. Seasonal gatherings may have provided opportunities for artistic communities to come together for cultural exchange, collaborative projects, and knowledge sharing. Large cave sites that could accommodate multiple communities might have served as regional centers for cultural activities. Migration patterns spread cave art traditions as populations moved to new territories. Artistic knowledge traveled with migrating groups, establishing new cave art traditions in different regions while maintaining connections to original cultural sources. Cultural boundaries defined regions of shared artistic tradition while allowing for local variations and innovations. The Franco-Cantabrian artistic tradition shows clear geographical boundaries that correspond to patterns of cultural communication and exchange. Cave art communities develop sophisticated methods for preserving cultural knowledge across generations, ensuring that essential information would survive individual lifespans and continue to benefit future communities. Memory techniques enhanced human capacity for retaining complex cultural information. Master artists developed systematic approaches to memorizing artistic techniques, symbolic meanings, and cultural protocols that could be accurately transmitted to apprentices. Physical markers preserve knowledge through permanent artistic records. Cave paintings themselves served as repositories of cultural information that could be referenced and studied by future generations. The paintings functioned as libraries of cultural knowledge encoded in visual form. Redundancy systems ensured that critical cultural knowledge was preserved in multiple forms and locations. Important artistic techniques and symbolic meanings were preserved in multiple caves and by multiple master artists, protecting against loss due to accidents or natural disasters. Validation mechanisms maintained accuracy in cultural transmission. Community elders and master artists served as repositories of authentic cultural knowledge who could correct errors and ensure that transmitted information remained true to established traditions. Update protocols allowed for the incorporation of new knowledge while preserving essential cultural elements. Communities developed systems for evaluating new artistic techniques and cultural innovations, adopting beneficial changes while maintaining core traditions. Emergency preservation provided backup systems for maintaining cultural knowledge during crises. In times of environmental stress, population displacement, or other emergencies, communities had protocols for preserving essential cultural knowledge and re-establishing artistic traditions. Documentation methods created permanent records of cultural knowledge through artistic and symbolic representation. Cave art served as a form of documentation that preserved information about animal behavior, seasonal cycles, spiritual beliefs, and cultural practices. Cave art traditions demonstrate the emergence of cumulative cultural evolution, the ability to build upon previous achievements to create increasingly sophisticated cultural systems. This capacity for cumulative innovation became a defining characteristic of human culture. Knowledge accumulation allowed each generation to build upon the achievements of previous generations rather than starting from scratch. Artistic techniques, cultural knowledge, and technical innovations were preserved and enhanced over time, creating steady progress in cultural sophistication. Innovation compounding occurred as new techniques and ideas combined with existing knowledge to create increasingly complex artistic capabilities. The combination of improved pigment processing, advanced tool technology, and sophisticated compositional techniques produced artistic achievements that exceeded the sum of individual innovations. Specialization development created dedicated roles for individuals with particular artistic talents and knowledge. This specialization allowed for deeper development of specific skills and knowledge, areas while maintaining overall cultural integration. Quality escalation resulted from competitive pressures and community standards that demanded continuous improvement in artistic achievement. Each generation of artists faced expectations to equal or exceed the achievements of their predecessors, driving steady advancement in artistic capabilities. Complexity management enabled communities to coordinate increasingly sophisticated cultural systems without losing essential elements. As artistic traditions became more complex, communities developed better systems for organizing, teaching, and maintaining cultural knowledge. Cultural ratchets prevented the loss of important innovations by establishing robust transmission systems and redundant knowledge preservation. Once significant artistic or cultural innovations were achieved, they were permanently incorporated into community knowledge systems. Synergistic effects emerged as different aspects of cultural development reinforced each other. Advances in artistic technique supported spiritual development. Improved social organization facilitated better cultural transmission. Enhanced cultural knowledge enabled more sophisticated artistic expression. The cultural evolution. Systems first developed to support cave art traditions established patterns and principles that continue to influence human cultural development today. These early innovations provided foundations for all subsequent forms of organized cultural activity. Educational institutions evolved from the apprenticeship systems developed for cave art training. The master-student relationships, structured learning sequences, and systematic knowledge transmission developed for artistic education provided models for all later educational systems. Professional specialization traced its origins to the specialized roles that emerged within cave art communities. The distinction between master artists, apprentices, and support specialists established precedents for all subsequent forms of professional organization and occupational specialization. Quality standards developed for cave art established expectations for excellence and systematic evaluation that continue to influence artistic and cultural production. The criteria and protocols developed for assessing artistic achievement provided foundations for all later quality control systems. Innovation management systems first developed for balancing tradition and change in cave art communities established principles for managing cultural innovation that remain relevant today. The methods for evaluating, adopting, and integrating new ideas continue to influence how organizations manage innovation. Cultural preservation methods pioneered by cave art communities provided models for maintaining and protecting cultural heritage. The systematic approaches to knowledge preservation, transmission, and documentation established precedents for all subsequent cultural preservation efforts. Network organization patterns developed for connecting artistic communities across geographical distances provided foundations for all later forms of cultural and professional networking. The exchange relationships and communication systems developed for sharing artistic knowledge established patterns that continue to characterize professional and cultural networks. The cultural evolution revolution initiated by cave art communities represents one of the most important developments in human history, establishing the capacity for cumulative cultural development that underlies all subsequent human achievement and continues to drive cultural progress today. Chapter 11. Cognitive Revolution. The creation of cave art marks a fundamental transformation in human consciousness, the emergence of minds capable of abstract thought, symbolic representation, and complex cultural meaning. Neuroscientific research suggests that creating and interpreting symbolic art requires integration of multiple brain systems, visual processing, motor control, memory, language, and abstract reasoning. The sophistication of cave art indicates that all these systems had reached modern human levels of development by at least 40,000 years ago. The ability to see a cave wall and envision it covered with paintings represents a cognitive leap that separates modern humans from all other species. This capacity for mental time travel, imagining future states, and planning complex projects underlies not just art but all of human technological and cultural achievement. Cave artists had to hold detailed mental models of animal anatomy, movement patterns, and behavioral characteristics while translating these three-dimensional dynamic subjects into two-dimensional representations. This requires sophisticated spatial reasoning and the ability to manipulate complex visual information mentally. The development of symbolic thinking, represented by cave art, enabled humans to communicate about things that weren't physically present: past events, future plans, abstract concepts, and spiritual beliefs. This capacity for symbolic reference is fundamental to human language, religion, science, and all forms of complex culture. Recent genetic research has identified specific mutations that may have contributed to the cognitive abilities necessary for creating cave art. Changes in genes affecting brain development, neural connectivity, and language processing appear to have reached fixation in human populations. Around the time that cave art first appears in the archaeological record, the cognitive demands of cave art creation may have driven further brain evolution through a process of gene culture coevolution. Communities that developed more sophisticated artistic traditions would have had advantages in social cohesion, cultural transmission, and environmental adaptation, potentially favoring individuals with enhanced cognitive abilities. Studies of modern artists and individuals with autism spectrum conditions have revealed neural differences that affect visual processing and attention to detail. Some researchers suggest that early cave artists may have possessed similar neurological variations that enhanced their ability to perceive and reproduce visual information with extraordinary accuracy. Emergence of cave art coincides with evidence for other cognitive advances. The development of complex tools requiring multi-step manufacturing processes, the creation of personal ornaments indicating self-awareness and social identity, and the establishment of long-distance trade networks requiring abstract thinking about value and exchange. Language and art appear to have evolved together, with both requiring similar cognitive foundations: the ability to use symbols to represent meaning, the capacity for cultural learning and transmission, and the development of shared conventional systems for communication. Cave art may represent humanity's first attempts at graphic communication, a precursor to written language. The ritual context associated with cave art suggests the development of complex belief systems and the cognitive ability to conceive of supernatural realms beyond immediate sensory experience. This capacity for transcendent thinking underlies all human religious and spiritual traditions. Working memory capabilities necessary for cave art creation, holding multiple pieces of information in mind while executing complex tasks, represent significant advances over other primate species. These enhanced working memory systems enabled humans to plan and execute increasingly sophisticated cultural behaviors. The social learning required to transmit cave art traditions across generations indicates the development of enhanced teaching and imitation abilities. Humans became uniquely capable of high-fidelity cultural transmission, allowing for the accumulation of knowledge and skills over time. The cognitive revolution that enabled cave art creation involved fundamental changes in brain structure and function that distinguish modern humans from all previous hominid species. Understanding these neural changes provides insight into how human consciousness evolved to its current sophisticated form-brain connectivity patterns in modern humans show enhanced integration between different neural systems that must work together for artistic creation. The ability to create cave art requires coordination between visual cortex areas that process shape and color, motor cortex regions that control hand movements, prefrontal cortex areas responsible for planning and decision-making, and temporal lobe systems involved in memory and symbolic processing. Neuroplasticity mechanisms that allow brain circuits to adapt and reorganize based on experience were crucial for developing artistic skills. Cave artists would have needed enhanced plasticity to learn complex techniques, adapt to different cave environments, and integrate new artistic knowledge with existing skills throughout their lifetimes. Attention control systems became more sophisticated in modern humans, allowing for sustained focus on detailed artistic work while maintaining awareness of broader environmental conditions. Cave artists had to concentrate intensively on precise artistic tasks while remaining alert to safety hazards and social coordination needs during extended underground expeditions. Memory consolidation processes that transfer information from short-term to long-term storage were enhanced in ways that supported complex cultural learning. Artists needed to retain detailed information about techniques, symbolic meanings, and cultural protocols across years of training and practice. Pattern recognition capabilities reached new levels of sophistication that enabled artists to perceive and reproduce subtle visual relationships. The accuracy of animal anatomy in cave art demonstrates enhanced ability to extract essential visual features from complex natural scenes and translate them into artistic representations. Executive function systems that coordinate complex goal-directed behavior became more powerful and flexible. Cave art creation required artists to maintain artistic goals across extended time periods while adapting to changing conditions and coordinating with other community members. Cross-modal integration between different sensory systems allowed artists to coordinate visual, tactile, and spatial information in ways necessary for three-dimensional artistic work on irregular cave surfaces. This integration enabled sophisticated understanding of how artistic techniques would appear in finished form. The parallel development of language and artistic capabilities suggests that these two fundamental human abilities evolved together through mutual reinforcement processes that enhanced overall cognitive capacity and cultural sophistication. Symbolic reference systems that underlie both language and art required similar cognitive innovations. Both abilities depend on the capacity to use arbitrary signs to represent meanings, to understand that symbols can refer to absent objects or abstract concepts, and to share symbolic conventions within social groups. Compositional principles that allow complex meanings to be built from simpler elements appear in both language and cave art. Just as language combines sounds into words and words into sentences, cave art combines individual visual elements into complex scenes that convey sophisticated meanings. Cultural transmission mechanisms necessary for maintaining language and artistic traditions across generations required enhanced social learning abilities. Both language and art depend on high-fidelity copying of complex cultural information from experts to novices through demonstration, practice, and correction. Narrative capabilities that enable humans to tell stories and explain relationships may have been enhanced through artistic practice. Cave art scenes often appear to depict sequences of events or relationships between characters, suggesting sophisticated understanding of narrative structure, abstract thinking abilities required for both language and art involve the capacity to manipulate concepts that aren't directly present in immediate experience. Both abilities require understanding of categories, relationships, and hierarchical organization that extend beyond concrete sensory experience. Grammatical structures in language may have parallels in the organizational principles of cave art composition. Both involve rules for combining elements in meaningful ways, suggesting that similar cognitive mechanisms may underlie both linguistic and visual communication systems. Pragmatic understanding, the ability to interpret meanings in context, applies to both language and art interpretation. Cave art viewers needed to understand not just what images depicted, but also their cultural significance, ritual functions, and symbolic meanings within broader community contexts. The sophisticated social and symbolic content of cave art indicates advanced development of theory of mind, the ability to understand that others have thoughts, beliefs, and intentions different from one's own. This cognitive capability was essential for creating art intended to communicate with other minds. Perspective-taking abilities allowed cave artists to consider how their artwork would be perceived and interpreted by other community members. Creating effective symbolic communication requires understanding of how visual elements will affect viewers and what meanings they will extract from artistic representations. Intentional communication through cave art required artists to understand that they could deliberately influence the thoughts and emotions of others through visual means. This represents a sophisticated understanding of the relationship between artistic expression and mental states in other individuals. Cultural knowledge systems that artists needed to master involved understanding of shared symbolic meanings, ritual contexts, and community values. Artists had to comprehend complex webs of cultural significance that connected artistic symbols to broader systems of belief and practice. Social role awareness enabled artists to understand their positions within community hierarchies and the responsibilities that came with artistic expertise. Master artists needed to comprehend not just technical skills, but also their roles as cultural transmitters and community leaders. Empathetic understanding allowed artists to create works that would resonate emotionally with community members. The powerful emotional impact of cave art suggests that artists could anticipate and manipulate the psychological responses of viewers through their artistic choices. Deception and truth concepts may have been sophisticated enough to enable artists to create fictional or mythological representations alongside realistic depictions. The presence of hybrid creatures and impossible scenes in cave art suggests understanding of the distinction between literal truth and symbolic or imaginative representation. The cognitive demands of cave art creation required significant advances in working memory capacity, the ability to hold and manipulate multiple pieces of information simultaneously while executing complex tasks. These advances enabled unprecedented levels of cultural sophistication. Multitasking capabilities necessary for cave artwork included simultaneously managing artistic goals, monitoring safety conditions, coordinating with team members, and maintaining awareness of technical constraints. This level of cognitive complexity was unprecedented in human evolution. Information integration across different domains required artists to combine technical knowledge, cultural understanding, artistic skills, and practical considerations into coherent action plans. This integration represents a major advance in cognitive complexity and flexibility. Planning depth reached new levels of sophistication as artists learned to envision complex, artistic projects that would require weeks or months to complete. This long-term planning ability enabled unprecedented levels of cultural achievement and technological development. Goal hierarchy management allowed artists to maintain awareness of overall artistic objectives while attending to immediate technical requirements. This hierarchical goal structure enabled systematic approach to complex projects that couldn't be completed in single work sessions. Cognitive flexibility enabled artists to adapt their plans and techniques in response to changing conditions, unexpected challenges, and new opportunities. This flexibility was essential for working in unpredictable cave environments and responding to emerging artistic possibilities. Attention allocation systems became sophisticated enough to balance competing cognitive demands without losing focus on primary artistic objectives. Artists needed to maintain concentration on detailed work while remaining aware of broader project requirements and social coordination needs. Error monitoring and correction capabilities enabled artists to evaluate their work continuously and make adjustments to achieve desired artistic effects. This self-monitoring ability was crucial for maintaining quality standards and achieving sophisticated artistic results. The symbolic content of cave art demonstrates advanced ability to form and manipulate abstract concepts that extend far beyond immediate sensory experience. This capacity for abstraction underlies all subsequent human cultural and technological achievements. Category formation abilities enabled artists to group different animals, objects, and experiences into meaningful classifications that could be represented symbolically. The consistent depiction of animal types across different caves suggests sophisticated categorical thinking. Relationship understanding allowed artists to perceive and represent complex connections between different elements in their artwork. The spatial arrangements and interactions between figures in cave art demonstrate sophisticated understanding of social, ecological, and symbolic relationships. Metaphorical thinking enabled artists to use visual symbols to represent abstract concepts, emotional states, and spiritual beliefs. The presence of hybrid creatures and symbolic geometric forms suggests sophisticated metaphorical reasoning abilities. Analogical reasoning allowed artists to transfer knowledge and techniques from familiar domains to novel artistic challenges. The adaptation of hunting and toolmaking knowledge to artistic applications demonstrates sophisticated analogical thinking. Hierarchical organization of concepts enabled artists to understand relationships between general categories and specific instances, between whole compositions and individual elements, and between immediate artistic goals and broader cultural purposes. Temporal abstraction allowed artists to represent events that occurred in the past, might happen in the future, or existed in mythological or spiritual realms beyond normal temporal experience. This temporal flexibility was crucial for creating narrative and symbolic artwork. Causal understanding enabled artists to comprehend relationships between their artistic actions and desired results, between symbolic representations and cultural meanings, and between artistic traditions and community identity. The creation of cave art reflects advanced levels of consciousness and self-awareness that distinguish modern humans from all other species. These cognitive capabilities enabled unprecedented levels of cultural sophistication and individual expression. Self-reflection abilities allowed artists to consider their own mental states, evaluate their artistic capabilities, and monitor their progress toward artistic goals. This metacognitive awareness was essential for skill development and artistic innovation. Identity formation through artistic practice enabled individuals to develop sophisticated self-concepts based on their roles as artists, cultural transmitters, and community members. Artistic specialization provided new avenues for individual identity development within social groups. Aesthetic consciousness emerged as humans developed the ability to evaluate and appreciate visual experiences for their own sake rather than simply for practical utility. The evident care and attention devoted to artistic beauty in cave art demonstrates sophisticated aesthetic awareness. Existential awareness may have been enhanced through artistic practice as individuals contemplated their relationships to nature, community, and transcendent realms. Cave art often appears to address fundamental questions about human existence and cosmic order. Moral reasoning capabilities enabled artists to understand ethical dimensions of their work, including responsibilities to community traditions, obligations to artistic accuracy, and duties to cultural transmission. The consistent quality and respectful treatment of cave art suggests sophisticated moral understanding. Spiritual consciousness allowed humans to conceive of and represent supernatural realms, spiritual beings, and transcendent experiences that extended beyond immediate material reality. The ritual contexts of cave art demonstrate sophisticated spiritual awareness. Creative consciousness enable humans to envision and bring into existence artistic works that had never existed before. This creative capacity represents a fundamental expansion of consciousness that enabled all subsequent cultural innovation. The cognitive revolution evidenced by cave art creation had profound implications for human evolutionary development, establishing mental capabilities that would drive all subsequent cultural and technological progress. Adaptive advantages of enhanced cognitive abilities included improved social cooperation, more effective cultural learning, enhanced problem-solving capabilities, and greater environmental adaptability. Communities with more sophisticated cognitive abilities would have had significant survival advantages. Evolutionary pressures may have been created by the cognitive demands of artistic practice itself. Communities that valued artistic achievement may have provided selective advantages for individuals with enhanced cognitive abilities, creating evolutionary pressure for continued cognitive development. Gene culture coevolution processes may have accelerated as cultural innovations like cave art created new selective pressures that favored genetic changes, supporting enhanced cognitive abilities. This coevolutionary process may have driven rapid cognitive evolution in modern humans. Cognitive niche construction through cultural practices like cave art may have created environmental pressures that selected for further cognitive enhancement. Artistic traditions may have created cognitive challenges that drove continued brain evolution. Population level effects of cognitive enhancement may have provided advantages in competition with other hominin species. Modern humans with enhanced cognitive abilities demonstrated by cave art may have had crucial advantages over Neanderthals and other archaic humans. Technological implications of cognitive advances laid foundations for all subsequent human technological development. The planning abilities, problem-solving skills, and innovative thinking demonstrated in cave art provided cognitive foundations for agriculture, metallurgy, writing, and all other technological achievements. Cultural implications established patterns of cultural transmission, innovation, and preservation that continue to characterize human societies. The cultural systems developed to support cave art provided models for all subsequent forms of organized cultural activity. The cognitive revolution evidenced by cave art represents one of the most important transitions in human evolutionary history, establishing the mental capabilities that distinguish our species and enable all forms of human cultural achievement. Chapter 12. Toolmaking. Creation of cave art required the development of an entirely new toolkit, specialized implements designed specifically for artistic rather than utilitarian purposes. Archaeological excavations at cave art sites have revealed grinding stones used for processing pigments, with surfaces stained red from thousands of years of ochre preparation. These tools show specific wear patterns, indicating they were dedicated solely to pigment production rather than food processing or other activities. Paintbrushes represent some of humanity's earliest examples of composite tool technology. Cave artists created brushes by binding animal hairs from horses, cattle, or other mammals to wooden or bone handles using plant fibers or animal sinew. Different brush sizes were created for different artistic purposes: fine detail work, broad color application, and medium-scale painting. Hollow bones served as primitive airbrushes, allowing artists to spray pigment evenly across large areas or create gradual color transitions. These bone tubes required careful preparation, selecting bones of appropriate diameter, cutting them to proper lengths, and smoothing the ends to prevent damage to cave walls. Stone lamps provided portable lighting for deep cave work. These weren't simple oil containers, but carefully engineered lighting systems. The best examples feature carved wick grooves that controlled flame size and fuel consumption, wide bases for stability, and handles for safe transport through narrow passages. Scaffolding systems required sophisticated engineering knowledge. Cave artists developed techniques for bracing wooden poles against cave walls to create stable platforms for ceiling work. Evidence from Lascaux shows they understood load distribution and structural stability principles that wouldn't be formalized until much later periods. Pigment storage containers demonstrate forward planning and resource management. Artists created portable vessels from shells, hollowed stones, and animal bladders for transporting prepared paints through cave systems. Some sites show evidence of pigment caches, prepared materials stored for future use. Mixing palettes evolved from simple flat stones to more sophisticated implements with depressions for holding different colors and textured surfaces for blending pigments. The most advanced examples show multiple color wells and evidence of complex color mixing experiments. Drawing tools included charcoal sticks, ochre crayons, and engraving implements made from stone or bone. Each tool produced different line qualities and required specific preparation techniques. Charcoal had to be created by controlled burning of specific wood types to achieve proper consistency. Water containers were essential for cave art expeditions. Artists developed portable vessels for carrying water needed for pigment mixing and brush cleaning. Evidence suggests they sometimes created temporary dams in cave streams to ensure reliable water supplies during extended painting sessions. Measuring and planning tools helped artists maintain proportions and compositions across large cave surfaces. String lines, measuring sticks, and geometric templates ensured consistency in multi-figure compositions and helped coordinate work among multiple artists. The sophistication of cave art toolkits demonstrates that artistic creation had become a specialized craft requiring dedicated equipment and technical knowledge. This represents a major shift from opportunistic mark-making to systematic artistic production, supported by technological innovation. The development of tools specifically for artistic purposes represents a crucial turning point in human technological evolution. Unlike tools created for hunting, food processing, or shelter construction, artistic implements serve no immediate survival function, yet required significant time and expertise to create. Tool design principles for cave art implements reveal sophisticated understanding of form-function relationships. Cave artists developed specialized tools optimized for specific artistic tasks, showing that they understood how tool characteristics affected artistic results and were willing to invest effort in creating superior implements. Material selection for artistic tools demonstrates advanced knowledge of material properties. Artists chose specific types of stone for grinding pigments based on hardness and texture, selected particular animal hairs for brushes based on flexibility and paint holding capacity, and identified optimal wood types for tool handles based on strength and workability. Manufacturing techniques for artistic tools required specialized skills distinct from those used for utilitarian implements. Creating effective paintbrushes demanded knowledge of animal anatomy, hair preparation, binding techniques, and handle construction. These skills represented entirely new categories of technical expertise. Tool maintenance systems ensured that artistic implements remained functional throughout extended cave art projects. Evidence shows that artists developed techniques for cleaning brushes, resharpening engraving tools, refueling lamps, and repairing damaged equipment during artistic campaigns. Innovation cycles in tool development show continuous improvement and refinement of artistic implements over thousands of years. Early tools were relatively simple. Later examples demonstrate increasingly sophisticated design and manufacturing techniques that enhanced artistic capabilities. Standardization processes establish consistent specifications for artistic tools across different communities and time periods. Similar tool types appear at cave art sites separated by hundreds of miles and thousands of years, indicating that communities shared technical knowledge and maintained common standards. The challenge of working in complete darkness drove cave artists to develop sophisticated lighting systems that represented some of the most advanced technology of their time. These innovations enabled artistic work in environments that would otherwise be impossible to navigate, let alone decorate. Lamp design evolved from simple animal fat containers to sophisticated lighting devices with features optimized for cave artwork. The most advanced examples include carefully shaped wick grooves that control flame size and fuel consumption, reflective surfaces that directed light efficiently, and ergonomic handles that allowed safe manipulation in confined spaces. Fuel technology required extensive experimentation to identify optimal burning materials. Cave artists tested different animal fats, plant oils, and mixed fuels to achieve the best combination of brightness, burn time, and minimal smoke production. They discovered that marrow fat produced cleaner flames than other animal fats, making it ideal for cave work. Wick preparation involved sophisticated understanding of combustion principles. Artists learned to prepare wicks from plant fibers, animal hair, or moss that would burn steadily without excessive smoke or flame fluctuation. Proper wick preparation was essential for maintaining consistent lighting during extended painting sessions. Lighting positioning strategies took advantage of cave topography to maximize illumination efficiency. Artists developed techniques for placing lamps to minimize shadows on work surfaces while providing adequate ambient lighting for movement and material handling. Multiple lamp systems allowed for complex lighting setups during large projects. Maintenance protocols ensured reliable lighting throughout extended cave art expeditions. Artists established systems for monitoring fuel levels, trimming wicks, cleaning lamp surfaces, and replacing worn components. Emergency lighting procedures provided backup illumination in case of equipment failures. Ventilation management balanced the need for adequate lighting with the dangers of carbon monoxide poisoning in confined cave spaces. Artists learned to position lamps to take advantage of natural air circulation and develop techniques for monitoring air quality during extended underground work sessions. Safety systems minimized fire hazards in cave environments filled with flammable materials. Artists established protocols for safe lamp handling, fuel storage, and flame management that prevented accidents that could trap or injure team members underground. The transformation of raw mineral materials into usable artistic pigments required sophisticated processing techniques that represented some of the earliest chemical technology developed by humans. These processes involved multiple steps and specialized equipment designed specifically for pigment preparation. Grinding technology evolved from simple rubbing stones to sophisticated mortar and pestles designed specifically for pigment processing. The most effective grinding tools featured textured surfaces that efficiently broke down mineral crystals, while preventing contamination from the grinding tool itself. Particle size control allowed artists to create pigments with different visual and handling properties. Fine grinding produced smooth, even colors ideal for detailed work. Coarser grinding created textured pigments that could be used for special visual effects. Artists learned to control grinding time and pressure to achieve desired particle sizes. Heating techniques transformed raw materials into new pigment colors through controlled thermal processing. Artists discovered that heating yellow ochre to specific temperatures would convert it to red ochre, expanding their color palette through chemical transformation. They developed methods for controlling heating processes to achieve consistent color results. Purification methods removed unwanted materials from raw pigment sources. Artists learned to separate high-quality color-bearing minerals from contaminating materials through washing, sieving, and selective processing techniques. These purification processes significantly improved pigment quality and color intensity. Mixing technology enabled artists to create new colors by combining different pigment sources. They developed systematic approaches to color mixing that allowed them to achieve consistent results and create intermediate hues not available from single pigment sources. Advanced mixing techniques involved understanding of color theory principles. Quality testing allowed artists to evaluate pigment properties before committing to their use in important artistic projects. They developed methods for testing color intensity, binding properties, and longevity that ensured only the best materials were used for major cave artworks. Storage systems preserved prepared pigments for future use. Artists created containers and storage methods that prevented contamination, moisture damage, and color degradation. Evidence of pigment storage sites near cave art. Locations indicate systematic stockpiling of artistic materials, the creation of effective tools for applying pigments to cave walls required. Innovations in composite tool construction that established precedents for all subsequent brush-making technology. These tools had to function effectively in challenging cave environments while producing precise artistic results. Hair selection for brush construction required detailed knowledge of animal anatomy and hair properties. Artists identified specific types of animal hair that provided optimal flexibility, paint-holding capacity, and durability. Different hair types were chosen for different artistic applications based on their unique handling characteristics. Binding techniques attached animal hair securely to handle materials using available organic adhesives and wrapping materials. Artists developed methods for creating strong, durable connections that could withstand the stresses of artistic work while maintaining proper brush shape and flexibility. Handle construction utilized bone, wood, and other materials to create ergonomic grips that allowed precise control during detailed artistic work. Handles were shaped and sized to fit comfortably in human hands, while providing adequate leverage for different painting techniques. Brush sizing created tools optimized for different artistic tasks. Fine brushes for detail work required careful selection of short, flexible hairs. Broad brushes for covering large areas needed longer, stiffer hairs. Artists developed systematic approaches to brush sizing that maximized artistic capabilities. Specialized applicators serve unique artistic functions beyond conventional brushwork. These included tools for creating texture effects, blending colors, and applying pigments in ways that couldn't be achieved with standard brushes. Some applicators were designed for single-use applications in specific artistic contexts. Maintenance techniques preserved brush functionality throughout extended artistic projects. Artists developed methods for cleaning brushes, reshaping worn brush heads, and extending tool life through proper care and storage. These maintenance systems were essential for preserving valuable artistic implements. Innovation. Cycles improved brush technology through continuous experimentation and refinement. Early brushes were relatively crude implements. Later examples show increasingly sophisticated construction techniques that enhanced artistic capabilities and tool durability. The quality of cave art depended heavily on proper preparation of cave wall surfaces before pigment application. Cave artists developed sophisticated techniques for optimizing natural rock surfaces as artistic substrates, creating tools and methods specifically for this purpose. Cleaning tools removed loose material, dirt, and contamination from cave wall surfaces before painting began. Artists created specialized scrapers, brushes, and abrasive tools designed to clean rock surfaces without damaging the underlying stone or creating unwanted texture. Surface analysis techniques allowed artists to evaluate cave wall suitability for different types of artistic work. They developed methods for assessing rock hardness, porosity, texture, and other properties that affected how pigments would adhere and appear on finished surfaces. Preparation. Protocols established systematic approaches to surface preparation that ensured consistent results across large cave art projects. These protocols specified cleaning procedures, timing, and quality standards that had to be met before artistic work could begin. Texture modification. Techniques allowed artists to alter natural rock surfaces to better suit their artistic purposes. Methods included controlled grinding to smooth rough areas, strategic abrading to create texture for pigment adherence, and careful removal of problematic surface features. Priming methods involved applying preparatory coatings to cave walls that improved pigment adhesion and color appearance. Some artists discovered that certain clay-based preparations could enhance color intensity and longevity when applied. Before primary pigments, quality control systems ensured that surface preparation met standards necessary for successful artistic work. Master artists established criteria for evaluating prepared surfaces and protocols for correcting inadequate preparation work before allowing artistic application to proceed. Environmental conditioning addressed the effects of cave atmosphere on surface preparation and pigment application. Artists learned to account for humidity, temperature, and air circulation factors that affected how prepared surfaces would accept and retain pigments. Creating cave art often required artists to work at heights and in positions that necessitated sophisticated structural support systems. The development of scaffolding and support technology for cave artwork represents some of the earliest engineering applications in human history. Scaffolding. Design principles established safe, stable platforms that allowed artists to work effectively on cave ceilings and high wall surfaces. These designs had to account for irregular cave topography, limited materials, and the need for easy assembly and disassembly in confined spaces. Load calculation. Methods ensured that scaffolding systems could safely support the weight of artists' materials and equipment. Cave artists developed intuitive understanding of structural engineering principles that allowed them to build stable platforms without formal engineering. Knowledge taught material selection for scaffolding construction, utilized available organic materials in ways that maximize strength while minimizing weight. Artists identified optimal wood types for different structural applications and developed techniques for preparing and joining structural members. Assembly techniques allowed scaffolding systems to be constructed efficiently in challenging cave environments. These techniques had to account for limited working space, poor lighting, and the need to minimize disturbance to completed artistic work during construction activities. Safety systems minimized risks associated with working at height in cave environments. Artists developed protocols for safe scaffolding use, fall protection, and emergency procedures that reduce the likelihood of accidents during artistic work. Adaptability features allowed scaffolding systems to be modified for different cave topographies and artistic requirements. Modular construction techniques enabled artists to reconfigure support systems as needed for different artistic applications. Dismantling procedures ensured that scaffolding could be removed from caves without damaging completed artistic work. These procedures were as important as construction techniques, since improper dismantling could destroy artistic achievements that had required enormous investments of time and effort. The technological innovations developed for cave art creation had impacts that extended far beyond artistic applications. Many techniques and principles first developed for artistic purposes were later adapted for other uses, establishing patterns of innovation transfer that continue today. Knowledge sharing systems facilitated the spread of artistic tool technology across different communities and regions. Similar tool types and manufacturing techniques appear at cave art sites separated by vast distances, indicating sophisticated networks for sharing technical knowledge. Adaptation processes allowed artistic tool technologies to be modified for non-artistic applications. Techniques developed for pigment processing were later applied to other chemical processes. Structural engineering principles from scaffolding were used for other construction projects. Training systems ensured that technological knowledge was preserved and transmitted across generations. Master toolmakers established apprenticeship programs that maintained technical expertise and continued innovation. In artistic tool development, quality standards established for artistic tools influenced standards for other technological applications. The precision and reliability required for artistic implements established benchmarks for tool quality that influenced other manufacturing activities. Innovation cycles created continuous improvement in artistic tool technology through experimentation, testing, and refinement. These innovation processes established patterns of technological development that would characterize human technological evolution throughout history. Technology integration combined different tool technologies into more sophisticated systems. The integration of lighting, scaffolding, pigment processing, and application technologies created comprehensive technological systems that enabled increasingly ambitious artistic projects. The legacy of cave art tool technology extends throughout human technological history. Many principles and techniques first developed for artistic purposes provided foundations for later technological developments in chemistry, engineering, manufacturing, and other fields that continue to influence modern technology. Chapter 13. Community effort. Cave art wasn't the work of isolated individuals. It required coordinated community efforts involving dozens of people with specialized skills and roles. Logistical analysis of major cave art projects reveals the scale of organization required. Creating the polychrome ceiling at Altamira would have required teams of people working simultaneously. Pigment preparers, brush makers, lamp tenders, scaffolding builders, and multiple artists. The coordination necessary suggests sophisticated project management, and social organization. Evidence from Lascaux indicates that some painting sessions involved 15 to 20 people working together in the main galleries. Different teams would focus on different aspects of the work: surface preparation, outline drawing, color application, and detail finishing. This division of labor allowed for faster completion and higher quality results. Apprenticeship systems ensured cultural continuity across generations. Master artists would train younger community members in pigment preparation, toolmaking, and painting techniques. Evidence of practice areas in some caves suggests formal training programs where novices could develop skills before participating in major projects. Support teams managed the complex logistics of cave art expeditions. Guides who knew the cave systems, porters who carried supplies, security personnel who protected against cave-ins or other dangers, and camp managers who organized food and shelter for extended underground stays. Community investment in cave art projects was enormous. Recent calculations suggest that creating the artwork at Lascaux required approximately 19,000 person-hours of labor, equivalent to having 25 people working full-time for an entire year. This level of investment indicates that cave art held central importance in community life. Quality control systems maintained artistic standards across large projects. Evidence suggests that master artists supervised and sometimes corrected work by less experienced painters. Some cave paintings show evidence of being painted over or modified, indicating that communities had standards they expected artists to meet. Resource management for cave art required community-wide cooperation, organizing expeditions to collect ochre from distant mines, managing fuel supplies for extended lighting needs, and coordinating food and water for large work crews demanded sophisticated planning and leadership. Ceremonial roles connected cave art to broader community spiritual life. Evidence suggests that cave art creation was integrated with religious ceremonies, coming-of-age rituals, and seasonal celebrations. The artistic work wasn't separate from community spiritual practice, but formed an essential component of it. Gender roles in cave art communities appear to have been more flexible than previously assumed. Analysis of handprints in French and Spanish caves suggests that both men and women participated in cave art creation, though possibly in different capacities or focusing on different types of work. Intergenerational cooperation was essential for maintaining cave art traditions. Older community members who held knowledge about symbolic meanings and ritual practices worked alongside younger people who provided physical labor and fresh artistic perspectives. This collaboration ensured both cultural continuity and innovation. Trade relationships connected cave art communities across vast distances. Similar pigment types, artistic techniques, and symbolic motifs appear at sites hundreds of miles apart, indicating extensive communication networks and cultural exchange between different groups. The organizational complexity of cave art creation reveals sophisticated social structures that challenge our assumptions about Ice Age societies. Archaeological evidence suggests that communities developed specialized roles and hierarchical systems, specifically to support artistic endeavors. Master artists held positions of considerable social authority within their communities. These individuals possess not only technical skills, but also cultural knowledge about symbolic meanings, ritual protocols, and spiritual significance of cave art traditions. Their expertise made them essential figures in community life, comparable to priests or skilled craftspeople in later societies. The training of apprentice artists required long-term commitments from both teachers and students. Evidence from caves with multiple artistic periods shows that learning systems persisted across generations, with master artists passing down techniques, cultural knowledge, and artistic traditions through formal mentorship relationships that could last decades. Work crews for major cave art projects were organized with military-like precision. Each person had specific responsibilities. Pigment carriers transported materials from surface camps to underground work sites. Lamp bearers maintained continuous lighting throughout extended painting sessions. Tool specialists prepared and maintained brushes, mixing palettes, and scaffolding equipment. Communication systems within caves had to overcome the challenges of working in darkness across large spaces. Teams developed signaling methods using torch movements, vocal calls that took advantage of cave acoustics, and positioning systems that allowed workers to coordinate activities without visual contact. Safety protocols reveal sophisticated risk management strategies. Cave art communities established emergency procedures for dealing with cave-ins, flooding, equipment failures, and medical emergencies. Evidence of rescue equipment and emergency supply caches shows that communities planned for worst-case scenarios. The economic impact of cave art projects on Ice Age communities was substantial. Supporting large artistic endeavors required redirecting significant human resources away from food production and other survival activities. Communities had to accumulate surplus resources and develop systems for supporting non-productive specialists during artistic campaigns. Decision-making processes for cave art projects involved complex negotiations between different community groups. Archaeological evidence suggests that choices about which caves to decorate, what subjects to paint, and when to undertake major projects required consensus building among elders, spiritual leaders, and skilled artisans. The creation of cave art generated entirely new categories of specialized knowledge and professional roles within Ice Age communities. These specialists developed expertise that went far beyond basic survival skills and represented some of humanity's first professional artistic occupations. Pigment specialists became master chemists who understood the properties of different mineral sources and how to process them for optimal artistic results. These experts could identify the best ochre deposits by color, texture, and binding properties. They developed secret techniques for heating, grinding, and mixing pigments that were closely guarded and passed down through specialized lineages. Cave guides possessed intimate knowledge of underground topography and developed expertise in navigating complex cave systems safely. These specialists memorized the locations of passages, chambers, water sources, and potential hazards. Their knowledge was literally life and death, information that communities depended upon for successful artistic expeditions. Lighting technicians managed the complex challenges of providing adequate illumination for cave artwork. These specialists understood fuel consumption rates, wick preparation, lamp positioning, and ventilation requirements. They developed techniques for maintaining consistent lighting levels throughout extended work sessions and knew how to prevent dangerous carbon monoxide buildup. Scaffolding engineers designed and constructed support systems for ceiling and high wall paintings. These specialists understood structural principles, load distribution, and material properties that allowed them to build stable platforms in challenging cave environments. Their expertise enabled artists to work safely on some of the most spectacular ceiling compositions ever created. Toolmakers specialized in creating the implements necessary for cave art production. These craftspeople developed techniques for making brushes from animal hair, creating pigment containers from shells and stones, and fashioning engraving tools from bone and flint. Their innovations directly influenced the quality and sophistication of artistic results. Surface preparation. Specialists developed techniques for optimizing cave walls as painting surfaces. These experts knew how to clean rock faces, remove loose material, and sometimes apply preparatory coatings that would help pigments adhere better and last longer. Their work provided the foundation for all subsequent artistic activity. Ritual coordinators integrated artistic work with spiritual practices and ceremonial requirements. These specialists understood the religious significance of different cave locations, the proper timing for artistic activities, and the ceremonial protocols that needed to be observed during cave art creation. The scale of community investment in cave art projects reveals the extraordinary importance these activities held in Ice Age societies. Communities were willing to dedicate enormous resources to artistic endeavors that provided no immediate survival benefits but were considered essential to cultural life. Labor allocation for cave art required communities to support significant numbers of people in non-productive activities. During major artistic campaigns, perhaps 20 to 30% of a community's adult population might be involved in cave art work, either directly as artists and support staff or indirectly as providers of food, tools, and materials for the artistic teams. Resource stockpiling preceded major cave art projects, with communities accumulating supplies months or even years in advance. Archaeological evidence shows storage sites containing prepared ochre, lamp fuel, food supplies, and tool materials positioned strategically near decorated caves, indicating long-term planning and resource management. Transportation networks developed to support cave art activities connected communities across vast distances. Trade routes for high-quality pigments, specialized tools, and artistic knowledge created economic relationships that extended hundreds of miles. These networks represented some of the earliest organized trade systems in human history. Time investment in cave art projects was enormous relative to the short lifespans and immediate survival challenges faced by Ice Age peoples. The willingness to dedicate months or years to artistic endeavors indicates that communities valued cultural expression as highly as material survival needs. Seasonal planning coordinated cave art activities with other community responsibilities. Evidence suggests that major artistic projects were often scheduled during winter months when hunting and gathering activities were limited, allowing communities to focus on cultural pursuits without compromising survival needs. Risk assessment for cave art expeditions required communities to evaluate potential costs against cultural benefits. The dangers of cave work meant that communities risked losing skilled individuals to accidents. Yet they continued these activities across thousands of years, indicating that the cultural value justified the risks. Technical demands of cave art creation necessitated collaborative approaches that established precedents for all subsequent forms of organized artistic production. These collaborative processes reveal sophisticated understanding of how to coordinate creative work among multiple individuals. Design planning for major cave art compositions required advanced consultation among artists to establish overall themes, spatial arrangements, and stylistic consistency. Evidence from caves with unified artistic programs suggests that detailed planning sessions preceded actual painting work, with artists agreeing on compositional strategies before beginning. Work sequencing ensured that different artistic tasks were completed in proper order without interfering with each other. Surface preparation had to be completed before outline drawing. Base colors needed to dry before detail work could begin. Scaffolding had to be positioned to allow access without damaging completed artwork. Quality coordination maintained consistent artistic standards across large projects involving multiple artists. Evidence suggests that senior artists reviewed and sometimes modified work by junior team members, ensuring that individual contributions fit within overall compositional goals and met community aesthetic standards. Technical Knowledge sharing allowed specialized techniques to spread throughout artistic teams. Master artists demonstrated advanced methods to apprentices and colleagues, creating systematic approaches to teaching complex skills like perspective rendering, color mixing, and surface preparation. Problem-solving collaboration addressed the unique challenges of cave art creation. When artists encountered difficulties with difficult surfaces, lighting problems, or technical challenges, they worked together to develop solutions that could be applied to future projects. Style coordination ensured visual unity across compositions created by multiple artists. Despite individual variations in skill and approach, cave art projects show remarkable stylistic consistency that indicates deliberate efforts to maintain unified artistic vision. Cave art communities developed sophisticated systems for preserving and transmitting cultural knowledge across generations. These systems ensured that artistic traditions, technical skills, and spiritual meanings associated with cave art would survive beyond the lifespans of individual practitioners. Formal apprenticeship programs structured the transfer of artistic knowledge from experienced practitioners to novices. These programs included not only technical training but also instruction in cultural meanings, ritual protocols, and community responsibilities associated with cave art creation. Oral tradition systems preserve stories, songs, and teachings that provided context for cave art imagery. Master artists and spiritual leaders maintained extensive repertoires of cultural knowledge that explain the meanings and significance of different artistic motifs and cave art locations. Practice systems allowed novice artists to develop skills before participating in major cave art projects. Evidence of practice areas and simpler artistic works suggest that communities provided opportunities for beginners to learn techniques without compromising important artistic sites. Documentation methods preserve knowledge about artistic techniques and cultural meanings. While Ice Age peoples had no written language, they developed systematic approaches to recording and transmitting technical knowledge through demonstration, practice, and oral instruction. Innovation preservation ensured that new artistic techniques and cultural developments were incorporated into ongoing traditions. Communities developed mechanisms for evaluating and adopting new ideas while maintaining core cultural values and artistic standards. Cultural renewal processes periodically reinvigorated cave art traditions through new artistic campaigns, fresh interpretations of traditional themes, and integration of younger artists into established practices. These renewal processes prevented cultural stagnation and ensured continued vitality of artistic traditions. Knowledge validation systems maintained accuracy and authenticity in cultural transmission. Senior community members served as arbiters of proper techniques and cultural meanings, ensuring that innovations and individual interpretations remained consistent with established traditions. The development of cave art traditions had profound economic and social implications for Ice Age communities, creating new forms of wealth, status, and social organization that persisted long after the artistic work was completed. Artistic skill became a form of social capital that elevated individuals within community hierarchies. Master artists gained prestige and influence that extended beyond their artistic work into other aspects of community decision-making and leadership. Specialization effects created economic interdependencies that strengthened community bonds. As individuals developed expertise in different aspects of cave art production, communities became more cohesive through mutual dependence on specialized skills and knowledge. Trade relationships established for cave art support created lasting economic networks that facilitated exchange of other goods and ideas. Communities that collaborated on artistic projects often maintained trading relationships that continued long after specific artistic campaigns ended. Cultural prestige associated with cave art. Traditions enhanced community status within regional networks. Communities known for exceptional artistic achievements gained influence and respect that translated into advantages in trade negotiations, territorial disputes, and alliance formation. Resource control over high-quality pigment sources and suitable cave sites created new forms of wealth and political power. Communities that controlled access to essential artistic resources could leverage this control for economic and political advantage. Labor organization developed for cave art projects established precedents for other forms of collaborative work. The management skills and organizational systems created for artistic endeavors were transferable to other community activities like hunting expeditions, seasonal migrations, and defensive preparations. Social mobility through artistic achievement provided pathways for individuals to improve their status within community hierarchies. Talented artists could gain recognition and influence, regardless of their family backgrounds or inherited social positions. The legacy of cave art community efforts extends far beyond the prehistoric period, establishing fundamental patterns for how human societies organize and support cultural activities. The collaborative systems developed by Ice Age artists provided blueprints for artistic communities throughout history and continue to influence how we organize creative work today.